All right, let's get right to it. It is Monday, January 29th, right around 2 p.m. Thanks for joining me. I'll try to make this as short as possible because there's not much happening here for at least the next 7 to possibly 10 days. And I think there's going to be a change after that. And that's really what we're going to talk about here in this update. Now, of course, we've been rather mild here. Warm today, unseasonably warm. We're threatening a record here in Twin Cities Metro, or at least at MSP International. Now, here are the heights at 500 millibars, so about 20 to 25,000 feet, and this is the reason why it's so warm. This is a ridge, a massive ridge that is over almost the northern half of the United States and much of Canada. And this ridge sits and stays in place. Look at how, in fact, as we get into Wednesday and Thursday, this is Wednesday and Thursday, look at how that ridge actually intensifies over southern Canada. So there is no way that storms are going to be able to penetrate northeast into Minnesota and Wisconsin here through the rest of this week and this weekend. Meanwhile, the storm track will be well south of us from California over to Texas, then eventually over to Florida. You can see that continues again, not only into the weekend, but then into next week. Now, here comes the big change. This would be right around maybe Wednesday or Thursday of next week here. You can see that this ridge, this large ridge, starts to edge towards the east over eastern North America. Meanwhile, probably more importantly, you can see a massive trough now digging out southwest of us off the California coast. And this becomes what we would consider a storm manufacturing plant out here over the western U.S. Eventually, as we get into later next week, energy is going to be kicked northeast. And the question is will it be able to penetrate through that ridge that is situated over our area? I think eventually it will, but of course, when looking at the way this winter has gone, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not able to penetrate that ridge. Here are the temperatures in the lower layers of our atmosphere. Just an incredible area of warmth now, especially as we get into Wednesday of this week. By the way, this is the European Computer Model Guidance. We get into Wednesday of this week. Look at this just incredible area of warmth over the upper Midwest and southern Canada, and that just hangs in place not only Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday now, but even into the weekend as that strong ridge just is anchored in the same spot. And it's not until we get into later next week that you start seeing that ridge, or at least that warmth, try to break down just west of us. And if it does later next week and into next week, and that's when we could get a little bit more of a stormy environment here in the upper Midwest. But will that be in the form of wintry precipitation? Well, that still remains to be seen, and he's certainly not optimistic, at least at this point, that will be the case. But cross your fingers if you want snow. We'll see. Here's the jet stream, the river of air at 30 to 35,000 feet. And this just goes to show you the split jet stream pattern. This is quite common when it comes to an El Nino weather pattern. You get one branch of the jet stream flowing well north of our region, and then a more powerful would be considered a subtropical jet going across the southern U.S. This is where the storms are over the next 7 to 10 days. Again, Texas, the Gulf Coast, Florida, and not only is it going to be stormy down there, but it's going to be kind of cold down there for this time of the year. And we are left in no man's land, just nothing happening up here in the upper Midwest through this weekend and into next week. And it's not until we get to this last frame here of the jet stream structure, it's not until late Wednesday that you start seeing the jet stream actually penetrating north into Minnesota and Wisconsin. So that's when we start to get some changes, the way it appears, would be right around that 10-day period from now. Not only will the jet stream be surging further north by then, but we're finally going to tap some Gulf moisture later next week. Long ways away, but this is good news. We need moisture. We're going to tap some of that moisture later next week. And of course, that will bring the opportunity for precipitation, especially this time of the year, because if we can get some Gulf moisture this time of the year, we could get quite a bit of rain, at least early on. It will be in the form of rain, the way it appears, and then perhaps some wintry weather later next weekend. Speaking of late Wednesday and Thursday of next week, look at where the temperatures are in the lower layers of our atmosphere. They appear to be way too warm to support any type of wintry precipitation. So I would expect any precipitation late Wednesday and Thursday of next week to be in the form of liquid. And then perhaps after that, we can start looking at some wintry type precipitation. But until then, look at this. An amazing trigger graph. This is uncharted territory. Can't ever remember putting out a forecast like this in late January and early February, but here we go. I think a record high is a no-doubter on Wednesday. We'll probably eclipse the record high. The record high for today is 49. We're going to be right at that, I think, by the end of the day today. But look at this. Even as we get into the weekend, temperatures well into the 40s, and overnight lows will be above the average highs with very little, if any, precipitation. All right, next update will be coming out tomorrow about 2 p.m. via a email, and we'll talk more to you this week.